Hi students, coming to the next topic, that is a prescriptive process model. So what are the different types of prescriptive process model? Now let us see. The different types of prescriptive process model are waterfall model. We call it as also the linear sequential model. Linear sequential model and incremental model. Incremental model, RAD model, RAD model. So these three comes under the prescriptive process model. So whenever the question comes that write about the prescriptive process model, try to write about these three. So these three, the explanation with the diagram. Okay, so the prescriptive process model was the waterfall model, incremental model and the RAD model. So the waterfall model I already explained in the previous videos. Now let us see the next, that is the incremental model. Now let us see incremental model. So incremental model, actually it is used when requirements are well understood. Whenever you're the person who is implementing the project, okay, the team that is going to be implement the project, they have to well understood the requirements whatever the user has given. Okay, so let me write the points first. Incremental model, it is used when requirements are well understood. Requirements are well understood. Then only you proceed with the incremental model. And the next point, the multiple independent deliveries are identified. In the incremental model, you will identify the multiple independent deliveries. Means once one module is over, means one concept or one module is completed, then the delivery will be there. And the everyone is independent to the other. Okay, it's a small unit modules. So every module will be delivered independently. Multiple independent deliveries are identified in the incremental model. And the next point, here the workflow is linear fashion. So just like a waterfall model, the incremental model is also the workflow is linear fashion within an increment and staggered between an increment. So within an increment and in the staggered between the increment, the workflow is always linear. Means after the completion of communication, they go for planning. After the completion of planning, they go for modeling. Like that. After the completion of one phase only, they will shift to the another phase. Once that phase is freezed, then goes to the another phase. Like that. So it's a sequential flow. Workflow in a linear fashion in incremental model. And here the concept of iterative will become. Incremental model also, the iterative will become. Means once planning is over, again they try to communicate with the person. Is still any requirements are there, like that. So it is iterative in nature. Iterative in nature, and it focuses on an operational product with each increment. It focuses on an operational product with each increment. So this is about the incremental model. So it is used when requirements are well understood. Then whenever there is a multiple, it is a concept of delivering the multiple independent modules. So the multiple independent deliveries are identified in incremental model. Here the workflow should be a linear. So that's why we are calling it as a prescriptive process. The prescriptive process always follows the sequential flow, the linear fashion, and actually it should be iterative in nature. Even though it is iterative in nature, but it follows a linear fashion, one after the other. Okay, so in any stage any problem is occur, it's just follow the iterative in nature, and it is focused on an operational product with each increment. So let me show you the diagram how this incremental model will be. Let us take the first increment. This is one module, increment 1. So in the increment 1, they'll try to first communication with the customer. Next, they try to planning on the requirements. Next stage is the planning. Next stage is modeling. So after modeling, they try to construct the product, means the implementation, construction. So final deployment. So once one module is completed, one iteration is completed, they try to deliver the product. So this is one independent process. And next they'll take the another in increment 2. So in the increment 2, they start with the, so once one module is try to planning, do the work, so the another team will take the another module. They start with the communication with the first customer. They communicate with the customer. Then they try to planning the project of the second module. When this team is in planning stage and the first team will be in modeling stage, because everything will be independent to each other. So there is no communication, there is no dependent relationship. So this will be once communicated, if the product is successful, they can deploy, and they, another team will take another module and try to communicate. Okay, so why we are starting, we can start here also, but the problem is if the same customer is there, if once the one customer is discussing with one module, once he hand over the project, then he'll take the another module and communicate with the people. So one team is in planning stage and another team will come to in the queue, okay, one after the another. So it is an incremental model, one after the another. So planning, next modeling, next try to construct and deploy. Okay, so in another stage, in the increment 3, so when they are in planning, if one team is in modeling stage and next is in planning stage, and the third they are trying to communicate. Communication. Next they are planning that module and modeling. Next try to construct and deployment. So this is how the incremental model will be work. Thank you.